Paper Mario, Origami King. Within every brand, a representative or an ambassador of said brand is of importance. Such representative or an ambassador can greatly bolster a brand's influence and growth, or contribute to its demise and decrease in positive reception. For Nintendo, they found one through a character in one of their video games that took off in popularity, Mario. Even many decades later to current day as of now, Mario is still easily one of the most recognizable video game character and figure in all of gaming. Mario has starred in many video games, and this video is going to delve in more about his latest venture within a specific series he stars in, Origami King, within the overall Paper Mario series. The Paper Mario series got its introduction and starred on the Nintendo 64. For the first time in a long while, Mario was playable in a video game that wasn't in the platformer genre. For those that have played the original Paper Mario, the general reception, more or less, was that it was a really well-made game. There were a lot to love about Mario starring in these kind of games. It took players on a sense of adventure. There were a cast of wonderful characters who helped you out in your journey. The combat system and a turn-based time button input was engaging, and gameplay elements were completely different from the usual Mario game, while being just as immersive. Of course, Paper Mario on the N64 was an extremely niche video game. Most people who owned the N64 never played it, or at best, vaguely heard about it. The series gained a much more of a notable recognition on the next console on the GameCube with the entry, The Thousand-Year Door. By no means did it propel the series to be the biggest draw out of all the IPs that is part of Nintendo. And the thing is, the Paper Mario series will never be that, because other series within Nintendo just has more brand name, appeal, familiarity, recognition, and staying power. The Thousand-Year Door did help make it a respectable and known franchise, in which now even the casuals have heard or knows about. With the Thousand-Year Door being the perfect successor and sequel in every way, I'm sure there were great enthusiasm and excitement for the next installment of the series. To the general public, this may be something that is not known. With different developers and studios contributing to a game, along with contracts, certain things have to be kept bound within a public company such as Nintendo. Things could get complicated, like ownerships to concepts, ideas, characters, etc. Due to certain reasons, Nintendo was most likely in a situation where they could not repeat the same mechanics and elements, more or less, with subsequent releases within the series that were prevalent in Paper Mario and its sequel, The Thousand-Year Door. Hence came a departure from the first two games and a bevy of releases which deviated heavily from what made the series so beloved. Truthfully told, I never got into another Paper Mario game after The Thousand-Year Door, being that the consoles they were released on were consoles that I never owned. But even from an outsider's perspective, I can understand how off-putting these games were, especially to the hardcore fans of the first two entries of the series. Concept-wise, I can see how Super Paper Mario, Color Splash, and Sticker Star can work within its appeal and design. They all present something good within its structure. But I also understand fully well why fan reception was the way it was. It's like film studios making new entries into the Star Wars franchise, but there is an absence of lightsabers, battleship aircrafts, Jedis, and the Force itself. That is what the Paper Mario series became like to the fans of the series. Gone were iconic roster of partners, the excellent combat system, the sense of adventure based off the scope of the overall world the game is set in, etc. Elements that made the series so beloved by the established fanbase have been stripped away and are barely present, if at all, by the later entries. When Nintendo announced Origami King, my first impression overall was that the game looked really promising. I thought the ring combat system was a pretty cool idea, and I could easily tell the effort and love that was poured in by the developers just from an art design standpoint. I was excited for the release, and my mind was made up from the trailer alone. I'm going to check out Origami King. Eventually, I got around to finishing Origami King, and here are my overall thoughts and impressions of the game. It's a really solid game in which the experience was just as magical as my experience playing the Thousand Year Door. I often pondered about this. Due to nostalgia, the fanbase would generally always pick the Thousand Year Door as the consensus pick. If a poll of all the games were available, it's way more likely than not that the Thousand Year Door gets the most votes. But if there were 1,000 people who never played any Paper Mario games and they both played the Thousand Year Door and Origami King, I am not sure the reception will be as much of a landslide as it stands in favor towards the Thousand Year Door. But back to the topic. For me, there were a couple of things that I really enjoyed about Origami King. First thing first is just the overall scope of the game and the sense of adventure it gives the player. Origami King takes the player on a journey through several of different locales, all with their own unique charming settings. And every location was just so well crafted and designed that traversing and progressing through the next area of the game felt exciting. Just the sheer variety of places the game takes the player, all with their own varying high point and highlights, is really damn impressive, and this was easily the biggest highlight takeaway for me. Another thing that I enjoyed about the game was that there was so much personality and charm injected into this entry. Paper Mario series, more particularly the first two entries, was beloved for a lot of reasons. One of them was that it felt like it bred life into the Mario universe and franchise. The Paper Mario series helped the overall universe feel way more than just background settings that are mere afterthoughts in which you engage with in a 2D side-scrolling platforming game. In Origami King, I felt as if they took this and amplified it by at least fivefold. No pun intended. Whether it's the toads you rescue who all have their own response in a one-liner, or actually getting to know Kamek more, who was one of Bowser's top dogs in his crew, everything about the game was funny, entertaining, and charming. One of the last things I enjoyed immensely about Origami King is that it felt like a nice return to form for the series. The playing experience of the game was just as enjoyable to me as it was for the Thousand Year Door, despite having notable differences in both entries of the series. You can tell the developers put so much effort and care into this game. All the dungeon puzzles are smartly crafted, most of the boss fights are fun, beloved side characters from the Mario franchise, regardless of which ones are your favorite, all get their shine and more camera time, which to me is the ultimate form of fan service. And just from a pure artistic design standpoint, Origami King is the best the series has ever been, in my humble opinion. Obviously, as gamers, we are consumers of games. Origami King made me feel proud to be a fan of the Paper Mario series. It's a game that I would recommend to anyone who owns a Switch that is looking for an adventure game. Origami King made me not have a single ounce of regret of being a consumer for this particular game. Every time I booted up the game to get further in completing the story, there was genuine excitement and enthusiasm from me. And Origami King made me feel good being a consumer because I consumed a game in which there clearly was a lot of effort, attention, and care that went into making the game. Overall, I think that Origami King is one of the best Paper Mario games made ever. My opinion should be taken with a grain of salt in that I never played any of the games in the series after the Thousand Year Door, but nonetheless, it's how I feel. Does it dethrone the Thousand Year Door as my all-time favorite within the series? I'm not sure of that, but I do acknowledge that Origami King not only holds its own to the Thousand Year Door, but also has aspects and elements of it that are clearly better in most regards than that of the Thousand Year Door itself. If you are a fan of Mario or want a single-player story adventure game in which you can easily log over 30 hours, I highly recommend The Thousand Year Door.